Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm excited to walk you through today's presentation. So with that, let's just dive right in. So quick introduction. My name is Brent. I'm a Sage Intacct sales consultant here at Vision 33. And so, what is that? Basically, my role is just to help companies and learn how their finance teams currently operate so they could possibly get the most out of their Sage Intacct. Things like think about streamlining processes, improving reporting, or just, setting them up for smarter and faster decisions. And joining me today is my colleague Matthew. We'll be walking you through a live demo shortly just to show some of this in action. A quick rundown of today's session. So I'm going to start with a brief 5-minute intro, and then Matthew will take over for about 40 minutes to show us the demo. And then, of course, we'll wrap things up with any of your questions as well. Now, before we move on to the demo, I wanted to give you just a quick overview of who is Vision 33 exactly. So Vision 33, what we do here is we help organizations just basically help them run better and grow smarter by turning ERP, automation, and any integration challenges that they might have with their current systems, wanting it to turn into real practical business value for them. So what we are is we're backed up by expert implementation, CPAs, as well as a huge ongoing support team. So we are global. We have a team of 400 great people all across the globe, mainly primarily in Canada and the US. We are all client facing. So to have that deep expertise in Sage as well is really, really helpful. So we do specialize in Sage, AWS hosting, as well as SAP. And really, when you think about partners, though, choosing the right software, of course, that really matters. But really, choosing the right partner is something that sometimes matters more just because that strong collaboration that comes from your team and the partner is really what you're looking for before, during, and then well after go live. So here's some of our wonderful customers currently using Sage Intacct. As you could see, they come from all over the spectrum, including we got nonprofit, SaaS, technology, professional services, and the list kind of goes on from there. But I'm sure you've all kind of heard of Sage Intacct and maybe done some initial research, but here's a few highlights just as a refresher. So as you can see, that Sage Intacct supports several industries and offers industry-specific functionality tailored to your specific needs. And so Vision 33's biggest customer footprint, although it is nonprofit, where we have approximately 35% of our entire client base, we still like to build on expertise in all verticals and all part of the spectrum, and really helps us guide our customers down the right path, especially during that implementation process, and all along while we're using your sector's best practices for reporting. So here's a quick snapshot of Sage's global reach. We can see that Sage just keeps growing year over year with both total and recurring revenue up at about 10% of their annual recurring revenue, ARR, growing at about 11%. So most of their revenue is now recurring, which shows strong momentum behind their cloud and subscription model. And here's another snapshot that shows Sage Intacct's global reach specifically. If you're interested in the underlying numbers there, Sage Intacct is really as secure as it gets. You no longer have to worry about things like backups, downtime, costly upgrades, all of those fun things. The good news is it just works all the time automatically. And also, it's good to mention that Sage Intacct isn't a solution that was retrofitted for the cloud, unlike a lot of current ERPs on the market. It's a native cloud solution, meaning it was born in the cloud from its first line of code, which makes it an affordable and easy to use solution, very flexible for finance teams who only need specialized finance tools within their specific business. So it does that through being a modular solution, which means you pay for only what you need now, and then you can add on more functionality later if you happen to need it. And so that's why Sage Intacct is referred to as what's called best of breed, because it also has an open API, which makes it seamless to integrate with other best of breed solutions that you might currently using or plan on using down the road. Also wanted to highlight Saltbox. So this is actually our proprietary cloud-based integration solution. We built it completely in-house by our automation and integration experts. So Sage Intacct offers what's called the marketplace. It's online where you can do a search and find many pre-built integrations for things like CRM, HRIS, and other best-of-breed systems. But Saltbox is also available if, say, for example, you're using something that doesn't natively integrate with Sage Intacct. So you can go on the marketplace, find it. If you can't, we can help you build that integration using Saltbox. And just letting the results speak for themselves, Sage Intacct, it stands out year over year based on real customer feedback. So with top rankings across a wide range of G2 reports, customers are saying they like how easy it is to use and how quickly it is to be implemented and the strong results that it delivers. And lastly, just a quick final word about Sage's embedded AI. So while it's not completely built into our demo environment just yet, still wanted to introduce it to you so it's on your radar. Basically, you could see Sage Copilot is like getting a very smart productivity assistant, doesn't replace you and doesn't do the work for you, but it's a copilot and just helps you give you the answers that you're looking for that are accurate and trustworthy, just giving you those tools to have a smoother, faster month-end close. So be sure to ask us about it next time we have a chat. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matthew. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everyone. As Brent mentioned, my name is Matthew. I'm going to walk us through our weekly demo today. A couple of high-level notes before we look at actual functionality. Keep in mind, again, Intacct is a native cloud environment, so that means you can access it anywhere, anytime, from any device. You're no longer limited to like the computer that's sitting in your office, or if you forget to take your computer home and you have a personal laptop, you can access your Intacct from any device and not have to worry about security. You don't need to be on a VPN. I'm working from home at the moment. I'm not on a VPN. It is not required. Everything is completely safe and secure. So if you currently have an on-prem solution and you're dealing with like server costs and server maintenance and having a room or part of a room in your building taken up by a big on-site server, kiss all those costs goodbye and kiss that server goodbye. It will no longer be required. Related to that would be updates to the solution. So I know with some older and some on-prem solutions, when updates are released for that particular solution, part of the responsibility is passed on to you or somebody on your team to install those updates to the solution. And sometimes you have to do it multiple times. And sometimes I know some clients will bring in an actual consultant to install the updates, depending on what type of update it is. With Intacct, that goes away. Intacct will update automatically 4 times per year, and there's zero that you do. You log out on a Friday. When you log in on the following Monday, the update will be in your solution. It's a very seamless update. It's not going to make the solution unavailable. It's not going to slow the solution down. It's going to happen generally over a weekend. So, if anybody is working, it's generally lighter work anyway. And it's not going to break any third-party integrations that you might have. I've been doing this now for a little over 5 years, which means I would have seen 20 releases in that time. They're 4 per year. And it has never broken third-party integration, and it has never caused any critical bugs. Like with any software update, are you going to see a bug here or there? Yeah, probably, right? If we're being honest, like it happens from time to time, but it's never a bug that is like, I can't enter journal entries, or I can't pay my vendors, or I can't receive payments from my customers. It's like this checkbox used to automatically be on, and now it isn't automatically on. And now I have to click it for a day or two until it gets hot fixed, right? So it's never anything major. They're not small updates. They come with some really good functionality. They're so seamless that if it weren't for my home screen here that tells me, hey, 2025 release 4 is here, unless you go looking around the system into some configuration screens or on some input screens and you notice like a new field, you might not even know the update happened because it truly is that seamless. Now, if you're interested on what did change with that release, you can click on read the release notes. That will bring you into a very well organized and a very helpful resource center regarding not just this update, but also prior updates. There's a nice highlight video. I like to sit down on the release day with a coffee at the start of my day and watch this video. I make notes of the functionalities that interest me the most or that I think my current clients or my past clients would like to leverage. And then after I watch this video and make those notes, I will come out and dig into the reading material because I'm more of a hands-on person. So I'll drill into the area that I'm interested in, and I'll go into a test environment that I have access to, and I'll test out this new functionality and see what it's all about. But as you can see with this most recent release, we've seen updates in AP, AR, budgeting and planning, cash management, consolidations, contracts, employee expenses, fixed assets, the GL, inventory, projects, RevRec, the purchasing module. They're very broad updates, and they generally, you will see each update come with some type of fairly strong functionality. So really great stuff there just to take that off your shoulders. And if you are curious when the updates will happen, you do have access to the release calendar. So the next release is the 13th of February, so just a couple of weeks away. The release after that is the 8th of May, then the 7th of August, and the 6th of November. They will occur on these dates. This calendar will not change. Sage will not miss these dates. These are very, very hard targets for Sage, and you'll always see the updates come on these days. And about a week before each of these updates, so on the 6th of February or the 1st of May or the 30th of September, you can actually come into this resource center and start doing some initial research on 2026 R1. So you can get like a little week head start if you want to. So just really nice to know that you're working on a solution that is a flagship product of Sage right now and that is constantly being improved upon and made stronger. With all that out of the way, let's take a look at some actual functionality. So Intacct is fantastic for a lot of different things: financial reporting, multi-entity management, multi-currency management, consolidated financial statements, fixed asset management, a procurement workflow, just a vast amount of functionality in here. And we're going to touch on some of those items throughout this demo. But in my opinion, where Intacct really separates itself from a lot of the competition comes from its financial reporting capabilities. The ease of creating reports in here, the ease of isolating data that you need to isolate to help drive your decisions, the ease of combining certain things together and just getting to levels of data that are difficult to get to in other systems become really, really easy to do in this solution. The backbone of what makes all of that possible comes from what Intacct calls dimensions. Okay. Now, out of the box, every client will get access to a number of dimensions. Every client has access to the entity/location dimension, the class dimension, the department dimension, the employee dimension, and the item dimension. Regardless of whether or not you have the inventory module, you do get the item dimension. Just if you don't have the inventory module, you create non-inventory type items. And what these dimensions do is a number of things, honestly. First and foremost, if you think about a segmented chart of accounts where, you have a chart of accounts, if you want to track financial data across these 5 different departments, you actually end up with a multiple GL accounts, right? So if we wanted to track the activity in GL accounts 5001, 2, and 3 across our 5 different departments, and you're using a segmented chart of accounts, you end up with 5001-100, 5001-200, 300, 400, 500. And then if you want to make a new department, say all of a sudden you need GL account 600, you're going to have to create 1, 2, 3 more GL accounts. And 3 is being, I wouldn't even call it very conservative. I would call it unrealistic. If you're tracking financial data across your departments or across any dimension, you're not doing it in only 3 GL accounts. You're doing it in every bit of 15 or 20. And that's probably being conservative. So you can imagine the amount of GL accounts that you end up creating using the sub account structure. So in Intacct, what your sub accounts are, or what they would have been in the example that I just showed, they come in their own standalone list. So you can have a list of departments. You can have a list of classes. Everybody asks me, what is a class? It's whatever you want it to be. I've seen individuals and clients use it for like revenue streams, business lines, divisions, or segments. I can actually rename the class and make it not read class, read whatever you want it to read. Like Matthew's demos are fantastic if I wanted to put that there and be super egotistical. You can literally make this read whatever you want. And what that allows you to do is really isolate data, whether it's on financial statements or a GL detail report, and really slice and dice your data if you want to get some type of combined reporting. So the way that happens is as you're coding a transaction in Intacct, whether it's an AP transaction, an AR invoice, a general ledger journal entry. When you get down into your data input table, it's not just a GL account you choose. You say, I'm going to choose GL account. I'm going to go into my sixes. I get some more relevant expense accounts here. Travel. Now, this travel, maybe it was somebody from the admin department that traveled. So you tag the admin department. If you also want to tag something like a class or a project or an item, you can continue to tag as many or as few dimensions as you have deemed appropriate or required for that particular GL account. Now, what that allows me to do is at any point in time, I can look at the total balance in my travel account, and I can see my total balance in that account. I can see my total balance allocated to my admin department in that GL account. I can look at the total balance in that GL account allocated to any of my companies or any of my sub locations or any of my classes. And I can even look at that balance in that GL account and say, only show me the balance in that GL account for not individual dimensions, but combinations of dimensions, coded to department 300, but also coded to department the location of Florida. So you can combine it and really fine tune the data that you get. And it's actually very easy to do. So as an example of how that works and how simple it is to do, I like to run a number of reports here to start this demo out. I'm going to go ahead and start with a general ledger detail report. So when I'm running a general ledger detail report, I shouldn't do 2005 because all the data in my environment is in 2019. I'll just start this out and I'm just going to run it for particular location, and I am just going to run it for like my expense accounts. I'm not going to get into revenue or, other anything like that. I'm just going to go, do I have a nine? Yeah, I'll run it here up to my nines. And I'm not going to use any filters. I'm just going to run a general ledger detail report for those 3 months. When I run this report, even though I haven't filtered for any dimensions, I can still see, if I choose to, the dimensions that were tagged at each line level. So if we look at each transaction here, I see the location ID, I can see vendor name, I can see customer name, I can see project name on each of my lines. And that is because those are the dimensions that I've chosen to show. If I want to change that up and say, what, the location ID doesn't do me a whole lot of good because I can't remember which location is which ID. I just prefer to see the name. Maybe I don't care to see my customer name or my vendor name. I'm not doing any analysis right now on revenue and expenses. So I can customize my GL detail report and I can say in this box here, rather than showing my location ID and my customer name or my vendor name, I want to see my location name and I want to see my department name and I'll leave my project name because why not? And I can click done. I can rerun my general ledger detail report. And as quickly as that, it's going to update and show me the data that I really wanted to see. So now I see my location name instead of my ID, and I'm seeing the department that is tagged at each line level. I don't see a whole lot of data on the project right now. We will as we get down to a little further into particular GL accounts. So you can see that. Now, if you want to filter this and say, you know what, I want to run a GL detail report, but I really only want to see transactions that ended up tagged to my foreign investment analysis project. When I'm running this general ledger detail report, I can use my project filter to do that and say, I only want to see transactions related to that project. And I can view my general ledger detail report again. And it's going to be a much smaller report this time because there's not so many transactions tagged. So of course I can do that same kind of filtering with a department, a location. I've done it with location actually, and so on, any dimension in your system that you're using. Of course, all of these general ledger reports and all my financial reports, they're fully drillable. So if I click on a dollar amount, it's going to drill me back from my GL detail report right to a source transaction, which in this case actually happened to be an employee expense report. So now I've drilled back right to the expense report that created the journal entry that we just looked at. That's kind of how you can leverage for the GL detail report. Now, when we get into financial reporting, which is certainly where it is leveraged much more by clients, we'll take a look at it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a basic profit and loss here. Nothing fancy about this one. There is a little bit of conditional formatting on it. We'll just pop this up right quick. And we see just, a fairly standard P&L. I did run my report for the month of December of 2019. So that's why, it says month ending December 31st, 2019. I have chosen to show my previous month. So you can see this is November 2019. And then this is a period variance, right? 42 minus 30 is 12. Our revenue has gone up from the prior month, so we've got that showing in green. And then we have a full year, our full year to date. And this is a calendar year that this company is operating on. To kind of show you like how these first three columns work, I'll go a little bit slower. I do tend to go quick in here. If I change my date, my as of report here to 10/31 of 2019 instead of December 31, 2019, my first column will be the month of October. My second column will be the month of September. My period variance will be from October to November, right? From September to October, my revenue has gone down. So now it shows in red. And my year to date column is only showing me my current year up to October 31st, not up to the end of the year. I'm going to rerun it for December just before I take my next piece because I do like to highlight down here the total net income, the 2.526 million. Maybe after running this report, I say that's fantastic. Right now, what I'd really like to see is a P&L across all of the different departments in my system. I want to see how each of my different departments are operating. I'll have a separate report ready to go. I'll just run that report. This one is configured to do so. I'll just have to click OK. And here, very quickly, now all of a sudden I have an individual P&L for each of my different departments for the full year. I have a total over to the far right. Down at the bottom in the total column, you can see that it's 2.526 million, so you know it's a fully reconciled report. So that's how you can like see all your data at once across particular dimensions. Maybe you're in a situation where you want to create individual P&Ls, one for the admin, one for the IT department, one for the marketing, sales, and services. So you can send it to the manager of those departments because, the services manager should be able to see his P&L, but we don't want them to see the sales P&L or the marketing P&L. So as we're running this report, we can just tell the system to do that exactly. Only run this report, please, for my services department. And I can click OK. And that's it. It'll filter that away. And there it is. All your reports in Intacct can be spit out to Excel. We click on the word Excel at the top after we run it. That will download my report in Excel. So there it is, spit out to Excel pretty quickly. One button that a lot of people really like is right next to the Excel button is the email. You can say, oh, okay, this looks good. Now I want to email this out to the manager. You can click on email. You can type in the email address of the person you want to send it to. You can ask to CC yourself so that you know that it went out. You can put a subject in it, and you can choose like what they get it in. Printable is a PDF, CSV is a CSV, Excel is just, an Excel workbook. HTML, they would need to be a user in your system, so they would just get to the screen we were on prior. And I don't know who would send a financial report in text format, but if anybody here does, please let me know because I'm very curious as to why. I don't think anybody ever would, but yeah, the option is there. Now, the reaction that I get a lot on demos from that is, it's fantastic, Matthew. You had that report set up ready to go, right? You're kind of tricking us on how easy that is. Like that has to be difficult to do, right? The answer is no, it really isn't. I just have it set up because I do for other demos, but I'm gonna rerun this report just to show you that I'm not gonna be tricky here. You see this report here has my year to date 2019. To add a breakout of a dimension onto a report or to duplicate a report. That's the report that I just ran right here. If I want to add that breakout onto this report, people think it's difficult. I edit that report. I come to my columns. I come to the column that I want to break out by a dimension. I go expand by my departments and I click set. And that's how simple it is to do, right? It's really not difficult. If you want to break that out a different way, maybe you want to see each month for the 12 months. I can click expand by my time periods and I can do quarters, I can do months, I can do budgetable periods. In this environment, months are the budgetable periods, so that wouldn't make a whole lot of a difference. I'll do quarters, just why not? And now I see quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. Like just really, really easy to do. It makes your life so much easier when it comes to financial reporting. So just great stuff there. Building off of the financial reporting capabilities comes the dashboard functionalities. So in your system, you can have as many dashboards as you like. You see in my system, I've got two, I don't know how many are here, 12 or 13, another three, I don't know, another nine or 10, and another nine, eight or nine, I guess. So, I've got 20 odd dashboards in my system here. I guess I could click on the word dashboards and see 42. Well, I drastically underestimated how many dashboards I had here. There's no extra charge per dashboard. You add and create as many dashboards as you like. There are some that come out of the box, but generally you're going to modify them to just be more appropriate for your business. You can determine who can and cannot see each individual dashboard. It's not like a come one, come all. You can say these people can see this dashboard, these people can see that dashboard, these people can see this one, and so on. So you can really pick and choose who can get to which data. Now, these dashboards are used for a number of different reasons, and they're very easy to build, and they're very, very useful, and they're very popular. So we'll take a look at a couple of dashboards quickly. I did drop into one of my entities to do so. I'm going to look first at a CFO dashboard. So as I run this dashboard now, at the top of the screen, we're going to get what is called my company performance graph. I don't know who named it the company performance graph. If it were me, I would have named it the net income graph because that is exactly what we are going to see whenever it decides to load itself in here. I am in a demo environment which doesn't get as much bandwidth put to it, and I am currently in the middle of a snowstorm, so there are a couple of reasons it might be going a little slow. But we have a company performance graph here. The top line is my revenue, the bottom line is my costs, the middle line is my net income. You can see that denoted here by the key on my dashboard. So you can see the trend very quickly. If you want to get to the more in-depth data, since this is derived from a financial report, it will maintain its drill down functionality. If I click on a revenue dot, that will open up the revenue portion of my P&L for the month that I selected, and then I can continue to drill backwards. If I click on I don't know who named it costs either. If I click on an expenses dot, it will open up the expenses portion of my P&L, and I can continue to drill backwards. And I think everybody here is smart enough to know what'll happen if I click on a net income dot. It's just going to open up my full P&L. You also have the ability to click on show data, and that will immediately just show you the numbers. Sometimes this is valuable as well. The drill down is the winner for me, but this is really useful as well. Down below our graph, we have some performance indicators. So we're looking at our services revenue compared against our budget. We're looking at our total revenue versus the prior month. We have percentage changes in all of these ones. We then have more graphs. We then have more performance indicators. Rather than showing percent variance on this one, we're showing dollar variance, and we're showing 3 months prior instead of prior month or versus budget, just to show you the flexibility. You can pick and choose your comparative value on these different performance indicators. Up top, you might have noticed I had smiley faces instead of arrows. Generally, we stick with the arrows because they are the most professional, but this can be a happy face or a sad face. It can be a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It can be a red flag or a green flag. But again, most people stick with the arrows. That's just one example of a dashboard. If we take a look at another example, our controller dashboard. This one's just a little bit different, structured a little bit differently, different color in the background. Performance indicators at the top. We've got a close through summary over here on the left, so our controller can see, okay, our months are closed through October. How come we haven't closed November and December yet? We've got like a working checklist here. Looks like on their to-dos is the rest of their month ends, coincidentally enough. We then have a P&L versus budget. So we've got actual and a budget and some other columns put in here. We've got some timesheets that need to be approved and just some other graphs. So just a quick example of a dashboard. Your dashboards don't have to be used primary or solely for financial data. A lot of my clients use what we call a month-end close dashboard. And this generally just makes your month-end close a little more streamlined. So we put a checklist on here that you just have recur month over month, a checklist of month-end activities, and they're assigned out to actual users in your system. These users can come in and update this checklist. So rather than you having to email Nikki or call Ryan or walk down to Emma's office, they should be coming in here and updating this checklist and giving your updates just to save you that time, right? You just at a glance, you get the info you want. And then if there's some comment here that warrants a call or an email, then you reach out to that particular person. We've got like a close through summary like we saw in the last dashboard. It's a very common widget on a lot of dashboards. We've got some custom navigation, so quick access to get into our bank rec, quick access to close our AP and AR subledgers and our cash management subledgers and our GL. Quick access into some reports like our financial reports or our trial balance or our GL detail and our vendor aging and our customer aging. And then we've got some more approval lists, which for the most part are blank, but we do have some timesheets that need to be approved. So just a quick rundown of the dashboards and financial reporting. Next, what I'll talk about quickly is the multi-entity and consolidation module that we have available here. So first of all, if your organization has multiple different entities, multiple different companies that have separate tax IDs that have to file their own financial statements, obviously the financials for those companies have to be maintained individual of one another, right? They can't all be mixed together. you probably mix them together for the company as a whole, but they have to have individual financials. In the majority of environments that I know of, having multiple entities involves you having multiple logins. So if you're doing work in one entity and you want to do work in another, you have to log out of one and log into the other. In Intact, that is not how the system operates. In this company that I'm working in right now, I have 7 different operating entities. They all have their own tax IDs. They all operate in their own functional currency. Like the US companies are reporting in US dollars. The Canada company is reporting in Canadian dollars, UK in pound sterling, Australia in the Australian dollar, and South Africa in the South African rand. And if I'm doing work in one of these companies, say I'm on the accounts payable bill screen, and I say, I'm supposed to be putting in, so I'm supposed this bill is actually for USA Company 2. I need to be in USA Company 2. I don't have to log out and log back in. I can click on my drop down for USA Company 1 at the top. I can choose USA Company 2, and not only will that log me right into USA Company 2, it will bring me right to the screen that I was on, right to the AP enter bill screen. So some convenient navigation there. So it just makes that much easier. I had that case in multiple roles before I started doing what I'm doing now. And while it always only took like a minute, like, hey, is anyone in this company? Are you in multi-user mode? Can you get in multi-user mode so I can get in? It was just always something that just for some reason irked me. Like it'd deter me from doing the work at that moment. Maybe that's more of a reflection on me, but it did annoy me. So that goes away. Next would be what we call combined statements, okay? Not true consolidated statements. If you want to combine the financial statements for a number of your entities, as long as those companies have the same base currency, you can combine the financials for those just immediately. You don't have to do anything. And in fact, you don't even know it because you have no way of knowing it. But when we looked at our P&L earlier on this call, that actually was a combined statement for the 3 USA companies at the top of my list here. Because I ran it from the top level. And when I ran it, I will show you. I did run it for in my location. I used USA all locations. This is what we call a dimension group. And this dimension group is set up to include USA Company 1, 2, and 3. Now, to show you that it is the financials for all those 3, I will again show you how easy it is to change the split out between some of this stuff. If I go to my columns on this report and I change my expand by to be locations instead of departments, and I click on preview, you will now actually see USA Company 1 auto, USA Company 2, and the USA Holding Company to get to the combined 2.526, right? So like it's that easy to combine your financials and also to combine them, but see each company separate if they all have the same base currency. Now, if they don't all have the same base currency, like the system that I'm currently in, and I meant to go to my organization view just so you could see this. You see my hierarchy here. Australian dollars and Canada and Canadian dollars. And then Canada has sublocations and sublocations again. If I want to create a set of financials to combine the financials for any number of these entities, one of them, two of them, three of them, all of them, into any currency that I like, not just the currencies that you see listed here. These are just the ones we have enabled right now. I can very quickly set up a set of consolidation books to combine the financials for Australia, Canada, and South Africa into Canadian dollars or into the South African rand or into Australian dollars. Or I could create 3 different sets of books and take those 3 companies and do Australian dollars and one does Canadian dollars and one does South African rand. You can set up as many set of consolidation books as you want. There is no extra charge. And these are true consolidations where elimination entries of interentity accounts will automatically happen for you. So give your book a name, you give it a description, you choose the currency that you want it to consolidate into. We put these into what we call a cumulative translation adjustment account. When you get to the entities consolidate tab, you pick which entities should be involved in this consolidation. You just pick them from the list. You then enable inter-entity auto elimination. The system will automatically grab the intercompany accounts related to the entities that you chose on the prior tab. If you have other intercompany GLs that you want to eliminate upon consolidation, such as maybe some intercompany professional fees and intercompany revenue and anything else, you can manually add them here. Once your books are saved and ready to go, you come to the run a consolidation screen. And this is where you can run your consolidations. So you can say, I want to consolidate my whichever set of books. These are three separate different sets of consolidation books with different entity combinations, right? Like my global location books has all of my companies in it, right? My North American locations, my North American books, sure, everyone can put it together, is going to have my USA companies and my Canada company. And my other set of books has, it says non-US, so you would think that Canada would be included in there. It should say non-North American. It's just the other companies that are not in US and Canada. And you can click on the month you want to consolidate. I like to click consolidate with options because that does show me the ending spot rate and the weighted average rate that are going to be used. I can click on consolidate now and the system runs my consolidation, elimination entries and all. Nice and easy, nice and quick. Once your consolidations have been run, you can very easily run your consolidated statements. So I can come out to another dashboard that I have in my system. I have my consolidations from the top level. And on this dashboard, I will see a consolidated balance sheet for my global set of books, and then also our non-US books in pound sterling and our North American books. That's really it for global consolidations that I was going to show. The next module that we dive into, this would be more related to a request that you just made. It would be our purchasing module. So in here, I can kind of touch on inventory as well. Probably not as in depth as you want to see eventually, but we will touch on inventory in here because the purchasing module is an important piece of the inventory module. So in Intacct, we can set up a full procurement process from start to finish. You decide what the process is here. Do you want to start with the purchase requisition? Is that going to a purchase order? Do you need to receive a shipment, right? So for the woman that just asked, of course, you're going to have a receipt of shipment where at this point you're going to debit your inventory and credit goods received but not yet invoiced. And then when you get the invoice, you're going to debit goods received not invoiced and credit AP, right? So this is kind of involved in the inventory module here. You're going to get a nice full like 3 or 4 way match, how many ever different documents you have in your workflow. And at any or all stages of your workflow here, we can set up approval policies so that these documents are forced through some type of approval. So, your purchase requisitions can go through one type of approval policy, your purchase order can go through another, receipt of shipment through another, and so on. Now, that would probably be overkill, but the functionality exists. Now, to comment on the inventory request, since we're on the purchasing module and it is relevant, if we go into my transaction definitions, just to kind of show you here, when I get to say my PO receiver, right, like my receipt of shipment, you can see that our inventory effect is going to be at this stage, we're going to increase the quantity and the value of inventory that we have in our system. And then, of course, when we get to our vendor invoice, if it's an inventory invoice, that we're going to decrease our inventory. That's how we help control, the cost and the quantity of the inventory to make sure that it's accurate. If we take a look at some of these workflows, like if I jump into, say, a purchase requisition in here, sorry, it's sales or sales that we would see the our sales transactions where we could see our inventory decrease. I don't have any purchase requisition. Oh, I'm in USA company 2. I need to go into USA company 1. So on here, we are going to see a list of the current purchase requisitions in our system. Now we're going to see a number of different states over here. So we have a state of submitted, we have a state of pending, we have a state of converted. So what do all of these mean? Submitted is pretty self-explanatory. This is submitted for approval. Somebody has requested to make a purchase and it is awaiting approval. If we want to see who it's awaiting approval from, we can come in and this is being set up to be approved by what we call a user group. So this could be any number of people, user group 1 and user group 2. Not the example that I really wanted to show. I will take this submitted one right here and hope this is a little more direct. So approval history. Yeah. So this is set up to go to the transaction department manager, then the location manager, then a project manager, and then a user level, which has been identified directly as me. This, again, might be a little bit overkill, 4-step approval. We don't see it too often, that many levels, but I do this on purpose just to show the flexibility. So the ways that we can route approvals are, as I've mentioned here, like a department manager, a location manager, a project manager. So what that means is if we go to this transaction and we look at the line level, we can see that the department is tagged as being the services department. On the services department, Ryan is the manager of the services department. We look at the location, we will see that Emma is the manager of the location. And if we look at the project that is tagged at this line level, Tom is the manager of the project. So if we go back and we look at the approval workflow again, we can see that it is being routed first to Ryan, then to Emma, then to Tom, based off how the transaction was entered. So when the person is who is entering this requisition is entering it, they don't have to say this is going to Tom and Emma and Ryan. They just have to know that this is for this department and it's for this location and it's for this project. The system does the lookup then on who the approval should go to and it routes it to them automatically. And those people will receive an email like a transaction has been submitted for your approval. They can drill in from that email right into the actual transaction itself and streamline that approval. If it gets approved or declined, the original submitter, which in this case is myself, would receive an email that says, hey, this transaction has been approved or declined. If it was declined, there almost certainly would be a note, right? Whoever declines it is going to leave a note for me, and I would see that note, and then I would be able to come in and make the edit and resubmit it. If we see the word pending, that means it has been entered into the system. It's gone through any approval policies if it was necessary. It has been approved and it is now ready to move into the next stage of the workflow. We can see that it did go through an approval history by the same drill downs. We can see who it was approved by. And what pending means is it's approved now, so we can move it along our workflow. So now we can come convert this purchase requisition into whether it's a purchase order to order new inventory or just a blanket PO or a purchase order. And what this does, it's going to copy all of the information off of the original requisition, plant it on the screen here for me so that I can just streamline that process and not have to go back and look up documents and try to copy it over manually. So it's going to save you some keying time and some keying errors. And if we see the word converted, that just means that the step that I just went to do is already done. If we want to see how far along any of these have been converted, like, okay, this has been converted, but is it sitting at the PO stage right now? Is it at the invoice stage? We can click on the word converted, as I just showed you, and it will show me that the full trail of this document. So it started as a purchase requisition. My purchase requisition was converted into a purchase order. That purchase order has since been converted into a vendor invoice. So there's our three-way match. Now, if you have a fourth step because you're an inventory company and you have to receipt a shipment, this becomes a four-way match, but you get the full audit trail in here. You can drill back to the PO from here. You can get to the invoice from here. Again, the drill down functionality and the lookup functionality and the convenience of navigation in here is really, really strong and just allows you to really get to places you need to get to with minimal clicks and just, have that information right at your fingertips. Just a really good module. The other ways that we can handle approvals, it's not just it has to be based off of, the department, the location, or the project. We can base it off of the total value of the document. So you set thresholds. If it's between 0 and $24,999.99, it goes to a level one approver. If it's between 25,000 but under 75,000, it has to go to these people. If it's above 75 but below 150, it goes to these people. If it's above 150, it goes to our CEO. Right? Those value approvals too, they can be what we call either direct or progressive. So direct is like if you put in a transaction that has a total value that falls under level 4 of your approval policy, it would go directly to the level 4, skip level 1, skip level 2, skip level 3, right to level 4. But if we have the progressive value approval turned on, then it goes first to level 1, then to level 2, then to level 3, and then to level 4. If it were a transaction that only falls in the level 2 threshold, it would stop after level 2, right? It would just go level 1, then level 2. Other than that, you can pick specific individuals or specific groups of individuals to route documents to for approval in any step of that workflow. And the order of those approvals, like if we look back at not this transaction, sorry, this transaction, the order that the approvals occur in, first it goes department manager, location manager, then project manager. You obviously get to pick this order as well, right? It doesn't have to be department, location, project. It could be project, then user level, then location, then department. That's yours to decide. You just set it up as you're setting up your approval policies. So a really strong purchasing module that is, of course, fully intertwined with your AP module. And in the AP module, we can make payments via EFT. We can generate ACH files. We can print checks, whether you're using pre-printed check stock or you have a special Micker printer with the ink, complete blank check stock, and a really strong payable module.
Question. If
Sure.
if we have a vendor, which basically we have 10 companies, okay?
Hmm.
So, which they run individually. So we have an income statement trial balance for each of them, okay?
Hmm.
Currently in this system we have, they were set with prefixes. For instance, Icon is 01, Icon West is 02, Icon Atlantic 03, and on. If I have a vendor, which
Hmm.
I'm using that vendor for all the companies or 5 of them, should
You
I
only
create a vendor ID for each company, or I can use only one and then I'm able to extract the data the way I need it based
based
on.
off the entity. Yeah, just one vendor. Yep. You don't need multiple vendors. You don't need multiple customers. If it's a vendor that is used across many of your entities, you only need that vendor once. And
How?
at any point in time, you can very easily tell which purchases were made to that vendor for which company. It's super simple.
So based on how we are recording the expenses for each vendor based on prefixes or how?
Well, it'd be on the location that you're in, right? So like you're working in one company at a time. So I can go into USA Company 1 and put in a payable to a particular vendor. If I go into USA Company 2 and put in it's the location is the differentiator in that point, right? Like if I come in here and I say Massachusetts Department of Revenue, the location that's tagged at my line level is Company 100. If I do the same thing in Company 200, I come in to put in a payable to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. The the location that's tagged at the line level is going to be Company 200, right? And similar to that is even though it's a shared vendor across your different entities, if I'm in one particular company and I run a report by default, from if I'm at the entity level, I will only see transactions that were entered related or in this entity. So if I run a vendor aging report right here, and I have a transaction in for the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, and USA Company 1 has a transaction in for the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, I won't see from this level the transaction that was entered in for the Massachusetts Department of Revenue in Company 1. If I am at the top level where it's shared data, it's still differentiated at that general ledger detail report level, right? So if I come to my general ledger detail report here and I run 0101 2019 up to 0331 2019, I'll grab all my I'm gonna grab my revenue here because the same holds true for customers. So I'm sure if I manage to catch it here for customers, you'll understand a little bit better. And I'm gonna say I want to see my location name. I want to see my customer name, and I want to see my vendor name. There we go. And I click on view. I click OK. But you see how I see my customers here and I see the company that it was for, right? Like cost less could be here, could be used in company too, and that's the
Yeah,
differentiator, right?
yeah,
It's super easy to do, super
yeah.
easy to tell. To be honest, we almost wouldn't even we would put if you were to come in and say I have 5 companies, I want this vendor 5 times, I would probably spend a half an hour or an hour trying to convince you not to do that. We like that is how we run all of our projects. You don't need the multiple vendors. You don't even need multiple vendors or customers in Intacct. I know you're not multi-currency, but that is a big one in a lot of systems where if you have a customer that sometimes you invoice in Canadian dollars and sometimes in US dollars, or a vendor that sometimes sends you invoices in Canadian or US, in other systems, lots of times you need 2 of those vendors, not for multiple entities, but for multiple currencies. In Intacct, you don't even need that. You can receive invoices from the same vendor in 5 different currencies, and at any point in time, be able to do a lookup and say, show me all of the invoices from this vendor in this currency or in that currency or in that currency. Like the filtering capabilities and the reporting capabilities in here are unlike any that I've ever seen.
And one more question. We will need to make some entries and to start tracking. We are producing material. So basically, we want to record the manufacturing, all the entries for a manufacturing. This system allows us to have this kind of.
No. Intacct has a pretty good inventory module if you don't need manufacturing capabilities. Like we cannot produce bills of material. It doesn't have manufacturing. It doesn't have manufacturing functionality.
So anything we need to record, we have to make the entries outside the system and just do the entries in general ledger.
I mean, or you have a third party system that handles that manufacturing side and it integrates directly into Intacct and then it just flows over. Like as you process things in that other solution, it just flows its way into Intacct automatically. That would be the route that I would go. But you know, it always comes down to cost benefit. You know, how much is it going to cost you? How much benefit is it going to be? When it comes to manufacturing, generally the benefit is there to justify the cost because you know manufacturing is manufacturing. But yeah, it doesn't do any manufacturing. It doesn't have manufacturing functionality, no.
Okay, good to know.
Awesome. Yeah, so with that, that is pretty well my time for the demo. I'd just like to say that, you know, what you've seen today is far from everything Intacct can do. I don't even like to say that we've scratched the surface. We're like glossing over the surface of what I can do in here in Intacct. I'm going very fast, even for myself, because an hour to show Intacct is like it's just not nearly enough time. I could spend an hour showing the purchasing module if I really wanted to. If I wanted to go through all the nitty-gritty of the purchasing module, I could spend an hour there alone. So, you know, we touched on a couple of modules. Some modules that I didn't even get to mention. Intacct has a RevRec module. It has an inventory module, as you know, we've kind of discovered. It has a fixed asset management module. It has a budgeting and planning tool. It has a prepaid expense amortization module. It has a contract management module, mostly leveraged by like SaaS companies, revenue contracts, not vendor contracts or that type of deal. Employee expense module, a full project module, project costing and billing and like resource scheduling and all that type of stuff. So, you know, it's a very thorough system. And if there are more specific parts of the system that you would like to see, or if you would like a more personalized or in-depth demo, all you have to do is reach out and let us know, and we'll be more than happy to do that. But I will thank everybody for their time and coming out. I do appreciate your attention and I do appreciate the questions. It's not very often we get someone come off mic and ask me a question. You're joined in a very exclusive club here today, you and probably two other people. So thank you very much for the questions. Like I said, if you want to see anything in more depth, you just let us know. We'll be happy to do so. Hope you all
Thank,
have a wonderful week.
thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
You as well. Bye
Thanks,
now.
Matthew.